The senator from Washington.
Mr. Chief Justice, I send a question to the desk.
Thank you. Senator Cantwell's question is for the House managers. In his opening remarks, Chairman Schiff said the Ukraine scheme was expansive and involved many people. Is there any evidence that acting White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney, Secretary of State Pompeo, Attorney General Barr, or anyone on the outside were involved in this scheme to withhold military aid or obstruction of Congress?
Mr. Chief Justice and Senator, thank you so much for that question. If we remember Ambassador Sondland's testimony where he said everyone was in the loop, but we don't just have to take his word for it. During his hearing, Mr. Sondland discussed a July 19th email he sent to the President's top aides, including Secretary Mike Pompeo, Acting Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney, Mr. Mulvaney's Senior Advisor Robert Blair, Secretary Rick Perry, and Brian McCormick, Secretary Perry's Chief of Staff. And we should at least start with, if we're serious about getting to the truth, issuing a subpoena for State Department emails. If you'll pay attention to the slide, in the email, Sondland stated, quote, "I talked to Zelensky just now. He is prepared to receive POTUS's call. We'll assure him that he intends to run a fully transparent investigation and will turn over every stone. He would greatly appreciate a call prior to Sunday so that he can put out some media about a friendly and productive call, no details." Mr. Mulvaney in the email acknowledges receipt and responds shortly, "I asked the NSC to set up the call for tomorrow." 6 days before President Trump, now infamous July 25th call, in which he told President Zelensky to conduct investigations into the Bidens and the 2016 election, Mr. Sondland sent an email to the president's top aides updating them on the status of the scheme. Again, quote, "Everyone was in the loop." On August 11th, Ambassador Sondland emailed Mr. Breckball to ask him to brief Secretary Pompeo on a statement he was negotiating with President Zelensky with the aim of, quote, "making the boss happy," the boss being the president, enough to authorize the investigation. Ambassador Sondland wrote to Mr. Breckball, and I quote, "Kurt and I negotiated a statement from Z, Mr. Zelensky, to be delivered for our review in a day or two. The contents will hopefully make the boss happy enough to authorize an invitation." And he's talking about the invitation for a White House Oval Office meeting, which we know was much more critical and important than a sideline meeting at the UN. Yet further evidence, and I quote, "everyone was in the loop." Attorney General Barr reportedly responded at some point. There was a New York Times article that was done, and Attorney General Barr responded to that article by stating that he was aware of DOJ investigations into some countries and that he was concerned President Trump was giving world leaders the impression he had undue influence over what would ordinarily be independent investigations. He cited conversations the president had with leaders of Turkey and China, further demonstrating that there was concern about the president abusing the power of his office for personal political reasons. Again, it proves that everybody was in the loop, and we should want to subpoena and review those emails involving the State Department and others.
Thank you.